Good. So this is how I would do this with a dog that was a little bit more mouthy when it came to desensitization, that is presenting a little bit more either like distance increasing signals saying, I don't want you to be that close to me, and you feel that you may or may not be confident hitting a point where the dog may not snap or bite. Or if it's a puppy, if they get too excited and they start jumping and they start going crazy and they start bouncing and mouthing and catching onto you, this gives you a space where you can back off. It's also important that they have space to back off as well. So there's a line that I'm not crossing and there's a line that they're not crossing. So it goes both ways. We can't just ask them to not come into our space. We also have to say, I'm not going to come into your space. So in this case, I would say that the line is about right here. So I'm not going to advance my body into that space because that's going to be too close for Odin. Odin's fine, but in this case, if you were using this exercise, that would be too close. If he wants to, he can go back further, and if he's on the bed, I'm not going to bother him. I'm going to trade him. I'm going to say, is it worthwhile for me to come into your space? And then I'm going to reward him for letting me into his space, but I'm not going to pursue him further. If he backed off and he went up against the door and said, I don't want to do this anymore, I back off too, because I don't want to put too much pressure on, because that's where we end up in situations that are either dangerous or harmful or both. So here in this situation, he's tethered. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to say, thank you for letting me into your space. I'm going to give him a treat to begin with. I'm going to give him another treat. And then again, like the desensitization work, I'm going to reach my hand out. He's going to touch my hand. Good. And I'm going to give him a treat as well. So I'm going to reach my hand. Good. He licked my hand, which is great. And then he gets a treat. Again, I'm going to reach forward. I'm going to touch his paw. He wasn't a big fan of that. He pulled his paw back, so that's a little bit too invasive for him right now. Sorry, I don't have a treat in my hand. I cued badly. So I'm going to scratch his chin, and then I'm going to give him a treat. There was a little bit of a lip lick and a whale eye there, which may just be that he's not really totally into what's happening right now. Odin is not used to being tethered, so he's probably not really digging this, but I wanted to have him do this for a video. So touch, good. He gets a treat. I'm going to scratch his ear, and he's going to get a treat. Immediately, I'm going to touch his paw very lightly, and then he gets a treat. Touch his other paw, treat. Touch his side here, get a treat. And so if you're working with a dog that you're maybe a little bit nervous that they're going to get a little bit too excited, start mouthing, I'm not going to start reaching in the back end here, because he's going to follow my arm, and then if I'm in a situation where I'm in danger of being bit, this is all in the way. I could reach this way, but again, he's not really, that's still, they're moving so fast that you're still in danger. So what you would want to do is make really, really sure that they were okay with you reaching before you started doing that. So in that situation, instead of just full on reaching and touching back here, what I would do is I would start reaching here to show my intent, to work my way over to say it's worthwhile for me to come over here, and I'm just going to inch my way over there. And then he's expecting the treat, he's looking for the treat from a different hand than the one that's coming out. Boy, good. Let me reach around the other way. Yeah, give him a treat. But again, any movement I would want to take, I would want to start from further back and then start working forward. So if I'm not sure that he's going to be comfortable with me touching him, I'm going to move my hand forward and I'm going to see if he offers something. Offering forward movement is a big one. So I go here and he says, okay, I'll come forward to you, and then I get a treat. How great is that? And then if I come forward and he moves forward again, that's good. If I move forward and he moves back, then I back way off. We're probably done at that point. So I'm going to move forward again, but he's kind of checking my hand out a little bit. He's pretty fine with this. So the other thing is, if this distance is too close, then we need to take it further back. And so I would start back here. I would start working with him at the distance that he starts presenting signals that are saying to me, back off. So he's actually not really giving me, I wouldn't say he's really given me any big ones. He's a little confused as to what's going on with the exercise because he's not used to doing this, but I wouldn't say that he was giving me any signals. I feel pretty safe coming right into his space because I know him really well. But if we were working with a dog that we weren't sure where their safe space was, I would start much further back. And the signals that you're looking for are the whale eye, which is that crescent moon, that sort of side eye that we would give if we were humans. There's lip licking that they do when they're stressed. The ears would move back. His intention would be a little bit further back, so his body intention would be a little bit further away if I moved forward and he moved away. So he's moving towards me, which is fine because he's associating forward movement with a treat. But if we were seeing this with a dog that wasn't sure, they would be moving back, or you would see stiffness. You wouldn't see relaxed body. If they're standing, you might see a paw raise. So if they're down on all fours, they may raise a paw. This is a calming signal, and it also is a slightly distance increasing signal. It's likely to show up at the same time. But those are low level signs that the dog is uncomfortable with how close you are. And so that's where you want to thank them for showing them that body language and then back away. Because we don't want them to have to escalate, because escalation leads to biting. And so if we want to keep them from escalating that behavior into a bite, then we move backwards when they say, I'm feeling uncomfortable. So what I would do is I would start at the threshold where he's just starting to show those signs, and I would throw a treat from there, and then I would move away. So we're putting a little bit of pressure on, we're entering his personal space, we throw him a treat, we say thank you for signaling us, thank you for communicating with us, and then we move away, we take the pressure off. He can't pursue us because he's tethered, but we're never going to break that threshold where he starts to say, I'm uncomfortable, unless we're undoing the tether here. So, I'd start back here. Say here is where I start to see those distance increasing signals. What I do is I take this and I toss him a treat, and then I move back. And then I'll come forward again. And you can kind of see his intention is showing, he's anticipating my movement forward, signaling treats now. So he starts to perk up a little bit, but likely what you would see is that distance increasing behavior shown there. Go to the bed. Good job. So I back away. I move forward. I would want to be tossing treats in this situation. It might be best to, Odin, it's right there. Odin. It might be best to use, if they really like their dog food, to use soaked dog food, because when that hit the ground, it wouldn't bounce. Because if the treats are bouncing away out of the tether range, then they're not going to be receiving the reward. If they're really good at catching, then you could throw them the treat, or you could use something that didn't bounce away as much, a softer treat or soaked dog food, or if there's maybe cheese or something that isn't going to bounce as much, that might be best to use instead of a treat or dry food that just might bounce away, especially on a hard floor. If it's on a carpet, it may not bounce as much, but that's something to keep in mind. If they're on tether and they can't get to the treat, it's going to get frustrating for them, especially if it happens a couple times in a row. So we want to make sure that they are getting the treat every time. I'm going to try again. I'm going to go kind of rapid fire here. Good. He gets the treat. I move away. We'll start to see the anticipation here. Move away. Not fair. Not a great treat to use. Here. Jeez. They also blend in with the floor, which is not helping. Odin, go to bed. Good. Sit. That's a down, you goof. Sit. Good. All right. Sit. Hey. Good. Down. Good. So I would work from further away, reward those distance increasing signals, and start working my way a little bit closer, because those signals are going to turn from please leave into anticipation for food. Because if we set a pattern of coming forward, throwing a treat, moving back, coming forward, throwing a treat, moving back, they're going to start to perceive that forward movement, especially in this context, as okay, you're going to throw a treat. So they're going to be a little bit more lenient as to how much space they're going to give you. And you're safe because they're tethered, but we don't want to take advantage of this situation. If we advance too far into their space, that's not fair because they can't retreat and they can't show all of their body language. So a nice loose tether like this is nice. If it's really, really tight and they're pulling towards you, it may not be the right time to be working at it. Or if the treats are bouncing out and the tether's tight and then they're getting frustrated, that's a good time to stop because that's not going to that's not going to yield any good movement forward. So you want to work within that range of coming forward, giving a treat, moving back, coming forward, giving a treat, moving back. At some point, you will see that change from distance increasing, those signals that I was talking about, into anticipation for food, for a reward. And then you can step a little bit closer. And you'll see those signals again because they were anticipating food and what they got was a little bit more pressure, but then they still get food and then you move back off again. And so the pressure is relieved. So they're more willing, they see the value in you coming closer. And then the pressure is relieved and then you move away. You can work up much closer to them, but as they work with this, they're gonna get more stressed. It's gonna be harder for them. So it's best to end on a win, end with a bunch of treats, and then say, okay, that's it, that's all we have to do. And then you're free to move around and do whatever you want. You don't have to come near me. I'll only come near you if you invite me to come near you.